So it is a National Down Syndrome Awareness Month in America. We mentioned that at the outset of this week, it coming out of Labor Day, and it's the occasion for us to address how people with disabilities are treated and provided for in our society. It's one of the indicators of how civilized or uncivilized our society is, in my view. And it's also the occasion to profile some wonderful advocacy on behalf of people with Down syndrome and other conditions. One of them is Frank Stevens. Frank Stevens is a gentleman with Down syndrome. And he gave this great testimony before a House committee on funding research into Down syndrome at the federal level. This is back 6 years ago. But I think it rings true to today, particularly against the backdrop of advocacy from so many in the medical community, not to mention the political community, in the direction of abortion if it is identified during pregnancy that your child may have a disability, Down syndrome or something else. Here's what Frank Stevens had to say in part during his testimony before that congressional subcommittee about research into Down syndrome.
And members of the committee, just so there is no confusion, let me say that I am not a research scientist. However, no one knows more about life with Down syndrome than I do. Whatever you learn today, please remember this. I am a man with Down syndrome, and my life is worth living.
In addition to the sort of that statement of principle, which is a pretty damn good one, he went into some detail about why this research is important and what he doesn't want America to become.
Is there really no place for us in the world? Is there really no place for us in the NIH budget? On a deeply personal note, I cannot tell you how much it means to me that my extra chromosome might lead to the answer to Alzheimer's. It's likely that this thief will one day steal my memories, my very life, from me. This is very hard for me to say, but it has already begun to steal my mom from me. Please think about all those people you love, the way I love my mom. Help us make this difference. If not for me and my mom, then for you and the ones you love. Fund this research. Let's be America, not Iceland or Denmark. Let's pursue answers, not final solutions. Let's be America. Let's make our goal to be Alzheimer's free, not Down syndrome free. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Wow.
Frank, we're too busy funding virology labs in Wuhan.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, pretty
You know,
powerful stuff, isn't it?
Life is God's expression on this earth. It's how God expresses himself on this earth. Life. Life.
Nancy Gianni is the founder and chief belief officer. I love that title. It's like something like you would think like a tech startup, but it is even more appropriate in this context. Founder and chief belief officer of Gigi's Playhouses. These are Down syndrome achievement centers, and I had the occasion to visit Gigi's Playhouse in Hoffman Estates a few weeks back, and it is unbelievable. You cannot believe what Nancy Gianni and her team locally and now globally have done. I mean, it's like Ray Kroc. It's like Ray Kroc starting, with one McDonald's and then there's 40 billion served. It really is sort of getting to that scale. It's incredible, which is why we wanted to have her on the show to tell her story and tell people more about what Gigi's Playhouses do in case they were not aware. Nancy, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh, brother, how do you start me with Frank? I'm
Yeah,
over here crying. That guy is so amazing and has done so much to create change. So thank you for playing that. That was awesome.
yeah, he's a awesome dude. So tell us about Gigi's Playhouse, the spark that led you to create it, and what it does, and where it's going.
Totally. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. This is so beyond awesome. Um, hello, Charles. Nice to meet
Good
you.
morning. Nice meeting you.
Good morning. So I started Gigi's Playhouse. Actually, it's going to be our 20-year anniversary. So next month will be our 20-year anniversary. So I guess that's what makes this so special to me. And Dan, that you're giving me a chance to talk about this because I've literally spent the last 20 years getting individuals with Down syndrome ready for the world. And I'm going to spend the next 20 years getting the world ready for them, opening up opportunities, opening up jobs, opening up minds, opening up people's hearts to individuals with Down syndrome and what they have to offer us in the world. So let me tell you how I spent those last 20 years. So I started Gigi's Playhouse, and they're Down syndrome achievement centers. We offer free therapeutic and educational programming for individuals with Down syndrome, their families, and the community. So everything from prenatal diagnosis all the way through to career skills. We make a lifetime commitment to our family with free programs. So one-on-one tutoring in literacy and math, physical therapy-based fitness programs, career programs, social programs, a lot of outreach into the community, just really helping to show the world the potential that individuals with Down syndrome have and celebrate that diagnosis. And I started it because my diagnosis wasn't celebrated. When Gigi was born, I heard condolences and not congratulations. I heard I'm sorry. I heard of a life that was going to be different than it was for my other kids, a life that wasn't going to be full of I literally thought my life was so over that I would never go to McDonald's Playland again. That's how they made me feel. Now, they took good care of me medically, but to them, this happening, especially, there's a large termination rate, 70% to all the way to 99% in countries like Iceland or Australia. So two people, that implies our kids are disposable and aren't meant to be here. That's why they were apologizing, because I got stuck with one in their eyes. And in their defense, in the defense of the medical communities, what they know about Down syndrome is very little. I heard from doctors they learn about 5 minutes about it in medical school. So to them, it was like, one of those things you don't want to get. And that's where those condolences come from. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like one of the most positive people in the world, and they're taking me down. I'm like, I'm not going down there. I want to celebrate this diagnosis. I want people to have a place where they can walk in and see potential, feel the energy, and not just go into like some church basement and sit there and talk about the woes of Down syndrome. I wanted you to go in there, reach for the stars, set goals, and be the person that God wanted you to be. And that isn't just for that individual with Down syndrome. That's for their family. That's for the volunteers. Anybody who walks into Gigi's, and Dan, you were there. You feel that energy. You feel
Yeah.
that gift.
When I was there, your daughter Gigi, she was doing a podcast. There's a store adjacent to like the central part of the establishment. There's a store, and you've got people working, and they're setting up for the store where you get ice cream and
Totally.
other actually arts and crafts that were made by people at the at the at your location there at Gigi's Playhouse. I mean, so it was a bustle. I mean, you're like a one woman bustle of activity, but there was a bustle of activity elsewhere in addition to that.
Yeah, it's nonstop. So whether we're, whether it's a new mom with a prenatal diagnosis or it's somebody learning to read math, speech therapy, whatever it is. There's stuff happening all around the playhouses. But the beauty of that is like, we don't just serve the individual with Down syndrome, we serve the community. We give the community a place to volunteer, to learn about acceptance, to a place where, you know, a lot of our kids are in separate classrooms. They're away from the other kids in school. They're segregated in schools. So a lot of times our kids these days are being brought up to go, oh, they're different. They're in a different class. Oh, that means they don't belong with me. And nothing could be further from the truth. So, you know, keeping them in the separate hallways, the separate part of the school, is keeping them away from other children. And that tells those other children, I don't belong with them. And you know, kids aren't born with prejudice. It's taught to them. And when we separate our kids from the other kids, they think that they shouldn't be together. So Gigi's is a place where a family, you know, we do it always in a strip mall in a retail area and we put our kids' pictures all over so that people can walk by with their kids and open up dialogue where you can walk in and learn and have a great time. All of the Gigi's Playhouses, we are built on fun. We are built on celebration. And you could bring your kids in, and I promise you, they will walk out different. They will walk out understanding, you know, this has nothing to do, you know, individuals with Down syndrome have low muscle tone. So like when a typical baby is born, they're like checking out the world. Our kids are born and they are literally teaching their bodies how to suck, swallow, and breathe at the same time. They then have to teach their bodies the mechanics of walking, talking, reading, eating. Everything that comes naturally to us, they have to teach their bodies to do. I mean, that's amazing. They are the strongest people that I know. And yet people think because these things are harder for them, that they're less than. But, you know, they overcome all of that and it really, truly makes them the strongest people that I know, which is why we fight for them. And I will continue to fight for them.
Tell us about the development, though, of, I mean, essentially franchising Gigi's Playhouse, so that Hoffman Estates.
Oh my gosh!
But
yes.
I mean, but it's we were looking at the map when I was there. You were giving me the sort of the tutorial, bit of a geography lesson of where all these establishments are, where the more that are coming online. I think after I was there, you were going to Mexico City or something. So just give us a sense of scale here.
Absolutely. I see, Frank got me all messed up. He got me all emotional, and then I went the other way. I got to get you back on the business model, brother.
Yeah, right.
We even though we're not for profit, we are a business. You know, the difference is, you know, the not for profit and the for profit is tax status. And let me tell you this: I have to jump through a lot more hoops than the for profit. So it is not easy to establish a not-for-profit, let alone a $25 million international not-for-profit, which is what Gigi's is today. So we started that one location. We now have 58 locations across the country and in Mexico. And we serve families in 86 countries with our free programs. And the virtual Playhouse started after COVID. Obviously, there was a huge need there. And as soon as we had to shut down that Playhouse, we literally had to shut down 4,400 hours a week of free therapeutic and educational programming. I mean, that was what we do. We do about 5,000 now a week. So our families desperately need us. But what happens is
that migrated online, right?
Yeah. And we did it before the schools. We were able to make that happen within 13 days of shutdown, which was pretty fantastic. And it was absolutely amazing. And it was, you know, you think about that. I'm a 99% volunteer run organization. Where were my volunteers now? So my volunteers were now home with their other kids, home with their jobs. You know, we had to do something quick so that we could take the pressure off of them, because these are volunteers who are running these playhouses across the country. So let me fill you in on how that works. So a community comes to us that wants to serve their community with free programs. So they start out with a team of volunteers who get into their community and start just building up the momentum, building up the teams. They become their own individual LLC, and then they open up their Playhouse. They're responsible for their fundraising. They are responsible for their locations. They are responsible for serving those communities. So we have an international model where we provide all that platform all of the intellectual property. Everything they need to run their location is ran through our LMS. We have a learning management system. And that way they could be our feet on the streets, and they could do it with probably some locations, 1, sometimes 2 employees. And the rest is all done by volunteers because we can train them from the national level. So it is beyond a gift from God. Our Mexico locations, which is where I was going when you were there, Mexico, that's another place where they're not philanthropic in Mexico. People were still hiding their kids away when we opened our Mexico location 10 years ago. Very low mortality rate. Now I'm looking at, we just opened our 2nd location in Mexico. And this is just such a place where they don't terminate, the terminations in Mexico are a lot lower than they are here in the United States or in other countries. And these families, there's a big cultural, like in many different cultures, there's just a shame
stigma
of having a person with a disability. Yeah. And so what we're doing there is literally game changing, and all the other Spanish speaking countries want to do it. So we're helping everybody as this goes on. It's just a model that's scalable and replicable, and everything we do is free. Like, what we do would never fit into any Fortune 500 CEO, create all these programs and then give everything away for free. But that's how the change is happening. And then I get believers like you, Dan, who can come in and see what we're doing and help spread our message. It's so important that we get this message out there. Our kids deserve a place in this world. And I'm so grateful that you have taken the time, that you came out to visit us, because that's what needs to happen. People need to step in and live it, because our kids aren't out there in the schools. They're not out there in the jobs because they're not available, or they're in different areas. We need people to see us, and that's what Gigi's is all about.
Well, I got to tell you, I mean, it's one of the most impressive nonprofit operations I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of them. I mean, it really is breathtaking what you've done and the scale to which you've brought this. It's just unbelievable. Nancy Gianni is the founder and chief belief officer of Gigi's Playhouse. Gigi'sPlayhouse.org is the website if you want to volunteer or you want to support Gigi's Playhouse, which you should do one or both if you are so motivated. Nancy, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it. Continued success.
Oh, brother, thank you so much. You guys have a fantastic weekend.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
I wish I had 1% of her positivity and energy, but I have neither. Nancy joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
At Signature Bank, going the distance for business banking customers is what we do every day. We understand that business owners have a strategic mission, a drive